Hey brewers and beer lovers, Jake with superbrewers.com here with another homebrew review. This time I'm going to be doing the review of my pale ale that was fermented with the fermented K-97, which is the dry Kolsch yeast. It's the same batch that the US-05 I posted last week, or the same recipe, just a different yeast. And one thing I noticed right up front is the clarity on this is so much greater than the US-05 was. The color's about the same, carbonation's about the same. In the aroma, I get a lot more bready notes, like almost like a fresh baked bread, with a little bit of almost like a raspberry jam aroma in the background. Definite fruit sweetness, a lot more malt forward, and a little bit more fruity. Little bit thicker mouthfeel. Definite bready sweetness up front. I like what you'd get with more like a whole wheat bread, almost like a, yeah, like the whole grain bread versus like just a white bread crust. And then it starts getting into the berry flavor from the hops. The hop flavor is a lot more subdued with the Kolsch yeast, which is probably to be expected, since Kolsch tends to be more of a malt forward, just basic bittering, not quite as much focus on the hops. But man, that is a tasty beer, if I do say so myself. This one, I think the Kolsch yeast complements the hop combination a lot better, since it kind of toned back the hops, rounded it out, and brought the malt forward a lot more. That way the kind of the weird conflict I was getting with the US-05 is not as forward and present in this beer. So man, looking for a good yeast to keep on hand for a nice malt forward beer, K-97 will do the job. You know, it tastes like an ale. It fermented at the same, I mean, they were right next to each other on the same shelf in my fermentation room. They've both fermented pretty cool, probably closer to 60 degrees. I wouldn't say this really has lager characteristics, but it's definitely more malt forward, which I guess could be more of a lager yeast characteristic, since they're known for accentuating the malt more. But yeah, man, it's a great alternative for a dry yeast to keep on hand, or just if you want to make a really good beer. If everything else you do a good job with, man, that K-97 yeast. Oh, and talk about crazy fermentation. Both carboys had about the same amount of headspace in them, and the K-97 yeast in the first 12 hours blew the airlock right out of my carboys. So it's vigorous, it takes off like a beast, and man, it's tasty. Cheers. Brew up an adventure.